we're here with a solo episode of the Refined Strength podcast. So thank you all for being here and for just listening and responding and sharing and everything. The podcast has been something that I really enjoy doing and am hopefully getting better at as the year goes by. So anyway, I want to start doing more solo episodes, and part of that is going to be me doing more educational content because I think that's always something that people like to hear, and I do get feedback on that, wanting to learn more about things. But I do really enjoy the guest episodes and having people on that I either know personally am friends with or just want to talk to and hang out with for an hour. So hopefully you guys are enjoying those as well. But this episode is a Q&A episode. I specifically wanted to do this because I was doing an off-season vlog that I recently, by the time this is posted, the vlog will also be posted. So you get the day in the life stuff with the vlog and just kind of more unfiltered, unplanned speaking and activities with that. And then with this, you'll get a Q&A. So I posted Q&A to my Instagram and got a good amount of questions, mostly directed at me for my off season, and then some that are just kind of general opinions. So I'm going to go through them. I'm going to put have them on here with to first kind of preface it. I have been in my off season now since November of last year, and at the time of this recording it is mid-April, so April 16th is when I'm recording this, and I've been in off season since November. I stepped off stage November 9th, something like that, and I kind of finished out my reverse maybe like in February, I would say, and then we kind of just held on, focused on health. I needed to get my menstrual cycle back a few more times in order for us to feel like everything was really moving and grooving, us meaning me and my coach, Mark. And so, yeah, we got my third menstrual cycle back since the show. They were a little far apart, about 45 days, but definitely seeing a lot more signs of just everything being regular and good. Blood work looked great too. So we recently started a growth phase, which is an enhanced growth phase. So this is the first growth phase of this off season. And this is potentially, hopefully, going to be a shorter off season for me based on just how we responded last off season. We're being a little bit more aggressive with this growth phase in terms of PEDs and just training and stuff like that than we have been in prior growth phases. So trying things a little differently. I have previously only done growth phases with Primo as my main anabolic, and then I've also done them with Primo in combination with NPP. And this growth phase, we're doing Mastron with T-ball and then obviously we do have, not obviously, but we do have GH and insulin in as well, kind of as a base. So for those of you that want to know the juicy details of that, that's where that is. Or that's what that is. That's the cycle. I'm not going to talk about dosages because that's just not necessary. It's similar to macros, which was one of the questions. What are your current macros? The thing is with macros is that you knowing my macros, whoever this person is or anyone listening, doesn't really help you. My food in terms of calories is, I will say that, my rest days are 2,000 calories, just a little bit over. And then my leg day, or no, sorry, that's wrong. My leg days are 2,600, and then rest days are 2,100, upper days 2,350. Protein is pretty high. It's at 195, which is pretty doable for me for the most part. And then carbs range from 220 to 350 for my rest versus training days and leg days, upper days, and then fats are at 50 across the board. So, but that doesn't help you, right? So if think about when you're asking someone what their macros are, what is the real goal? Are you going to just do those macros so you can look like me? No, it's not. It doesn't work that way. So, but if you're just curious, that's what they are. Same thing with, dosages and durations and stuff with PEDs. It's my cycle isn't going to make you look any specific way like me. It's just mine. And so yours might need to be different if you were going to do an enhanced cycle. So that's kind of my take on that stuff. So, other questions here. When did you realize your love of training would be something that you could make a career out of? That's a good question. My little quick background, hopefully quick, on my career is I was actually a personal trainer back in 2012, and I started that based off of really enjoying being a part of like a personal training. It was kind of like a bodybuilding boot camp that I joined back in 2012, when I just wanted to get in shape for a show I was acting in and dancing and singing in. And so I had been, a professional performer and wanted to just get in shape. And so I joined this boot camp, and it was ran by like a bodybuilder and his wife. I still didn't know about bodybuilding at the time, but I ended up wanting to become a personal trainer because of that. So I did the following year, started working in gyms, and found out within like 2 to 3 years that I just didn't love training people in person. I also didn't love the sales aspect of training. So I really I transitioned away from that, kind of thinking and accepting that like maybe just training and fitness, like as a job with actual training, isn't for me. And so I transitioned into gym management, kept competing because I competed for the first time in 2015. And at that time I was a personal trainer. That was my only job. So I, took a break from actual instruction, not training anymore. And I really didn't think about becoming a coach until probably like 2019, 2018. I was coaching some people kind of on the side, not advertising it at all, but just like helping people who asked. And I think I coached a few people for free. I coached my mom through a big weight loss transformation, and helped a girl get on stage. Just me. I was obviously competing at that time. I got my pro card in 2017. So I knew that I was like walking the walk, but I also didn't want to be one of those coaches who like got their pro card and became a coach. So I just like was really aware of that and not wanting to do that and be that. So fast forward to 2020, I decided to reach out to my coach at the time, Paul, and decide that I wanted to work for him. And so that was kind of like what I guess is like the realization was once I realized that I could coach and I could make this a full-time thing. And at that time, I was coaching people more regularly, like 5 or 6 people at a time. I was charging a little bit more, seeing good results with my clients. But it was purely on the side. I was still working a corporate job. So started working for Pro Physique, and like seeing people really want to work with me. That was what kind of made me truly realize like, oh, this could be a lifelong thing. Like this could be something that could like be my full-time job. So I got to quit my job within like 3 or 4 months of starting, because I did really grateful. I'm grateful for that time and for Pro Physique for supplying the leads and the flow of clients in the early days. And then over time, when I got to see myself really just like take that and become a coach that people want to work with just because of me, that's what really solidified it for me and eventually led me to starting Refined Strength. So is when I took basically all of 2023 and decided to only work off of referrals who wanted to work with me, not necessarily anyone else in the company. So that's kind of what made me realize it. So it was a multi-year and like levels to that realization. Next questions. Go to pre-workout and post-workout meals. So my pre-workout lately has been cream of rice, and I just do basic ground up rice. I don't like buy anything special. I do really like rice and grinds. I have a bag of that I got for free that I'll use from time to time. But yeah, usually it's just regular cream of rice, and I put in Core Nutritionals ISO, about 35 grams of it. And hey, stop. Put in protein powder and isolate. And then I have been mixing, I always put a little salt in there too, obviously. And then I mix in some fruit. Usually it's either bananas or raspberries. Those are my 2 favorite fruits right now to like mix into something or have on top of something like oats or whatever. Blueberries are just a little too fibrous. So if I'm doing blueberries on oats or cream of rice, cream of wheat, I'll do that like my last meal of the day. But anyway, pre-workout is that. And then I've been actually adding granola on top, like 10, 15 grams of granola for the texture. So it's like soft for the most part. And then like the frozen berries and then the granola, like the hard crunchy, is like amazing. So that's been my go-to. I used to also be a big cereal fan, or sometimes if I don't want to do cream of rice or cereal, I'll do sourdough bread, like just my plain sourdough that I make, and I'll put on just like honey or preserves or something like that. And if I need to add in some extra carbs, because my carbs in that meal are usually around 85 grams, I will do like dried mango or dried cherries. I typically always have some sort of dried fruit in my pantry, and that allows me to have like shelf stable, fast digesting carbs. So post-workout, typically always do chicken and rice. So just chicken breast. I do like 180 grams of chicken breast, and then I'll do 200 grams of rice, and then I'll do one other carb source, like again, either dried fruit or sometimes applesauce. I used to do that a lot in my last off season. I'll probably start doing that more as carbs go up, but that is my post-workout. If I'm eating out for post-workout, I will often do like a poke bowl. That's like my go-to clean meal out is a poke bowl with just like white rice, like sushi rice, and ahi tuna and shrimp. And then I'll do veggies on that. And the sauce I use is ponzu, because it's literally just like a citrus soy sauce. So yeah. How do you really feel about the guidance of not losing more than 1% body weight in prep versus digging for a week or two, then refeeding, then pushing, etc.? So honestly, I don't really like feel any type of way about that. Everyone is different. And if I look at 1% body fat, so say like, the average female that I'm starting in a prep, maybe they're starting prep at 150 pounds, right? So 150 pounds times 0.01, so that's 1.5 pounds for that 150 pound person. Obviously, it changes as you go down in weight, but 1.5 pounds per week is really like, that's a good amount. Like, I'm happy if I have someone dropping a pound, 2 pounds in a week. However, it really depends on the person, their timeline, how much they have to lose. So I'm worried less about the actual body weight and the scale than I am like, how is their physique changing? And what does the body weight do in relation to other things, in relation to other data, like their cardio, their training, their stress, their hunger level, their water intake, things like that. I also want to make sure that the prep can be as sustainable as possible for as long as possible. So the first half of the prep, I'm typically like just looking for that gradual decrease. Then at some point, there's usually kind of a stall, and we're not dropping that 1% as easily each week. So that's where I'll start to do more push phases and pullback phases. So it's kind of that second half of prep where, I'll like, all right, we'll drop food, and they'll get a string of low days, maybe 5 to 7 low days in a row. And those are where you're really digging. You're starting to get depleted. So like depleted of body fat, depleted of glycogen, stuff like that. And that's when maybe fatigue is starting to set in a little bit. You're getting actually hungry. And then, depending on response, I'll maybe give a couple refeeds or multiple days of refeeds, maybe 2-3 days. Usually I start with 2, maybe start with 1 and see how someone responds, then give them another one, and then go back to low days. Because generally halfway through a prep, you're not going to respond like amazingly to those first refeeds. It's more of a mental response than anything. And then over time, your body becomes more metabolically adaptive. And so you're able to like get more out of those refeeds, and weight usually starts dropping after the refeeds, even if you pop up a little bit. So that's my typical way of doing things, but typical means that I don't always do that. Sometimes people need more like hard push phases earlier on. Sometimes they do really well and they respond really well throughout the majority of their prep. And we don't have to do those push and pullback phases until way later in prep when they're closer to their show. And then it's more of like data collection for peaking. So that's how I feel about it. I think I got all of those from the anonymous ones. Then from the non-anonymous, someone asked, GH in off-season, prep, or both? Personally, I've taken it in both. So I have taken it off-season, generally intramuscular, into muscles trained, pre-workout. And I've always kind of kept mine at 2 IUs a day. And then in prep, we switched it to subcutaneous, and that was fasted in the morning, because they work slightly differently when you're taking them intramuscular before training. That's where you're going to get more of a response, like via pump in the gym and driving better growth. Whereas sub-Q fasted, it's helping to mobilize fatty acids. It's helping to facilitate fat loss a little bit more. So that's why I would switch it. And personally, like, I like and enjoy keeping GH in all year round. I can afford it, so I don't have a problem doing that. Now, some people, even though like it would be beneficial for recovery purposes, pumps, growth, fat loss, whatever phase you're in, it just might not be realistic to do that because GH can be expensive. So that's my thought on that. I think a lot of people like don't always think about is like, sometimes it's not realistic just because it's like an added expense. So what's your favorite and least favorite thing about coaching? Same for bodybuilding. So for coaching, my favorite thing is just being able to witness and be a part of someone's life changing. It is really special to like open up check-ins and see wins and see people like basically just recognizing really cool things about themselves and the journey. Like, telling me that they set better boundaries with someone at work, or they never thought that they would be happy with their body at this high of a weight, or, this prep is the best prep I've ever had because I feel so aligned and so well taken care of, stuff like that. Obviously, it's great to feel validation of me as a coach, being a good coach, but it's mostly seeing those wins that are more personal to them, to my athletes. And that's just like, it's cool because like, that's the kind of stuff that really like shows me that I'm making an impact on people. Yeah. So that's my favorite part for sure. There's lots of really good things about coaching, but that's my favorite. The least favorite, I think I've said this before, but I would say it being probably having to repeat myself to people who just don't get what I'm saying. And so sometimes that's just a challenge that I have to overcome. Like, all right, I need to say this in a different way that's maybe going to get through to this person better. Most of the time when people have to hear the same things over and over again because they aren't quite getting it or they're not applying it or whatever, it's because they're either self-sabotaging, they don't believe in themselves enough, they don't believe me because they haven't fully like released and been able to lock in and lean in and trust the process. Like, you need to build your metabolism before you can start losing weight. That's just how the body works. That's a hard one for people to really understand and be able to like have the patience and the temperance to like really lean into that growth phase and metabolic building phase. I've had people fall off and decide not to continue coaching simply because they're not committed to the process of bettering themselves. And they're so concerned with what they want right now that they're not willing to put in the work longer term to get that faster, even though it does take a good amount of time of prep work and mental work and inner work. So I guess it comes down to just people not believing in themselves as much as I believe in them and not like trusting in the process when like they don't have any evidence to not trust in the process other than like what's holding them back up here. So that would be my least favorite thing about coaching. For bodybuilding, my favorite thing, I guess it's just like seeing yourself go through hard times and difficulties and being able to like actually get through those things and just like watch yourself walk through it. It's like you're watching, I think of it as watching a movie. I'm watching a movie of myself and just like seeing the main character, me, getting through all these trials and tribulations and like pushing past hard moments and pain, and also seeing them all go through all the wins and seeing them be proud of themselves and that kind of thing. So that's my favorite part, is just the personal challenge of it and the power of just continuing and persevering. Because like especially after this last season, I had no idea I had those placements in me and that physique in me. I had to just trust that I did. And so when I started my prep, I really didn't know if I would get there. I just told Mark, like, I just don't want to get last place. That's my goal. Like, please just help me get a top 10. And we did that the first show. And then we got third the next show. And that was like so cool, especially after the fact that I had just lost 6 times on the pro stage in seasons prior. Losing that many times. I mean, I've seen pros lose their pro debut and not do well at their pro debut, and then they give up and never compete again, but they still got IFBB Pro in their bio. And to me, that would have been like the ultimate giving up, because it's like you give up because you had these expectations of yourself to win your pro debut or do really well at it. But does that really matter? Because like you can't just bank on that for your own success and your identity being a certain way or your self-worth. You have to, if you really love competing and if you love bodybuilding and you want to succeed at it, you're going to have to lose a few times, and you got to be okay with that. It doesn't mean that you have to like be okay with it in a way like, oh, I did a great job, I lost. Like, no, you can see yourself lose, realize like, all right, that sucks. It didn't feel great, but I know I can improve, because obviously you're not going to improve if you're not going to get a better output if you don't put in better inputs. So I just saw each loss as an opportunity to get better, and that's it. So that's my favorite part, is just the journey. My least favorite part is probably sometimes just how long things take, and like the mental battle sometimes that comes from being in a long off season, or making mistakes and having to live with them. But I also don't see those as bad, because it's like still opportunities to like learn about yourself. So I guess like the other thing that comes to mind that's a least favorite thing would be allowing like kind of other people seeing, trying to think of like how to say this. I'm like at a loss of words, but what I see on social media and what I see in athletes that I work with or athletes I'm friends with is people just like allowing bodybuilding to overtake them and become their identity. And they just like, they can't do anything but bodybuilding, or they think they have to be miserable in order to bodybuild, or they have to be like so hardcore about something that they like put away everything else just to bodybuild. And usually what happens with that kind of mindset is that your life is eventually going to fall apart and you're going to blame bodybuilding. So like the trend I see oftentimes of, people saying, showing some girl eating a post-show treat, and it's like she doesn't know it yet, but she's about to experience 30 extra pounds in 2 weeks and complete hormonal shutdown and just all of these terrible things that happen to this person because of bodybuilding. Then she writes a caption about how bodybuilding ruined her life and ruined her body, and she's so glad to be done with it. And that's so sad to me, because while, yes, there were probably things either outside of your control or things that a coach might have done or social media allowed you to see or think, like at the end of the day, we all choose what we do. And if we choose to do a prep that was overly restrictive, or if we choose to do PEDs that fuck things up, or if we choose to go through a prep when we weren't already in a good headspace, if we chose to prep when we still had some disordered eating habits, that's on us. And so that's why like patience and temperance in bodybuilding is so important. And if you don't want it to become your whole life and then ruin your whole life, then you have to like be mindful of that and know and like show up for yourself. So that's I guess like my least favorite part of bodybuilding, is that people blame it a lot for their problems, when really like they need to blame themselves for not taking it as seriously, or not taking parts of their life and their health as seriously as they enter into bodybuilding. All right. How do you keep your mindset strong in off season? Some people lose their mind over weight. Needed a drink for that one. Okay. My mindset, I think I've talked about it a little bit before on here, like on this episode even, but my mindset, I keep strong by feeding it and fueling it. So like part of my morning routine every morning is I'm here on this chair and I journal and I read. And I would say that is the major thing that has helped me. That is the major thing that has helped me develop my strong mindset, is I read every single day. I used to be a really slow reader, and I used to identify with that and be like, I can't read. I'm just too slow. I'm just never going to get anything out of it. And I had to like get that out of my head and just start reading. And so for me, like I'm only reading for 10 minutes, but it's a really rich 10 minutes. So like I like to read This is the Obstacle is the Way, and it's a Ryan Holiday book. It's just like every chapter is a different small, short, like a very digestible moment of or lesson in stoicism. And so the obstacle is the way is the timeless art of turning trials into triumph. So kind of like what I talked about before, like anything that I have had that has been a problem or a trial or a failure, I've been able to turn it into something better. I've been able to turn it into a positive because of what I can learn from it or how I can grow from it. I now look at my losses on stage as lessons that I get to impart on my clients now and tell them like, hey, it's okay to lose and you can't expect to win everything, but look at how much better you can get after learning from this loss. Or I can talk to them about like, hey, I only lost because I didn't take this seriously enough, or I didn't have the coach telling me what I needed to hear. So I'm here telling you what you need to hear. That's like reading has really helped me with my mindset, and also just journaling. So every morning I also journal. I write down at least 5 things I'm grateful for. And sometimes they're meaningful. Like I'm really excited about my retreat coming up. I'm happy about like the growth of my business and, maybe just my relationship with Austin or something like that. But sometimes it's super simple. Like I'm grateful for fresh air or morning walks or a hot cup of coffee or something like that. And just like you train your mind over time, the more you give it like that, the more you feed it with not just positivity, but like intentional positive thoughts that help your mind grow and help your mind expand. Because if all you're ever doing is living in this like suck or living in the, getting worked up over things or minor inconveniences frustrating you, if you get caught up in just like guilt or shame, and that's like the type of thought and feeling you're always having, then you're not going to get out of that. And you have to pull yourself out of that. So that's the biggest thing for my mindset is just like reading and really listening to what I read so that I can apply it. And I specifically do this in the beginning of the day, no matter what. And I never not do it, especially on a work day, because of how much it helps me for my clients. And so I look at it as like, this helps me for me, but it also helps me get grounded and like ready to take on the day of check-ins where I'm pouring into others. In terms of losing your mind over weight, that's not your job to worry about your weight. It's your coach's job. That's what I like to tell people. Macros, cals, how much cardio versus lifting. I already talked about my macros and calories a little bit, but currently I have 3 sessions a week of cardio, and I really enjoy that right now. Hey, calm down. I enjoy the cardio. It helps me feel more fit. It helps me feel just like not winded going up and down stairs at a heavier weight. So that's helpful. And I also just like enjoy working in a different capacity than training. And I like how it can help me stay a little leaner. I am doing 3 sessions a week. They're typically like about 25 to 30 minutes. I'm doing calorie based. So I do like between 250 and 300 calories per session. And then I'm training about 4 to 5 days a week. So some weeks I'll take like a couple extra rest days. Like I'll take one after another because I just like had a really hard 2 days of training. But typically I'm doing like 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 to 2 days off, and repeating the split from there. Favorite back exercises to increase the density. Favorite back exercises. I like T-bar rows, but I also hate them because like our T-bar row machine at Recess, the gym I go to, is like incredibly heavy. It's the Arsenal one. If you know, you know. But I really love like single arm rows too, especially on like the hammer strength row, ISO row machine. And the low row machine is also great, I think, for density. But good old deadlifts are also awesome for density. It takes time and it takes like a lot of heavy training of them, but I think that's been a big part of especially like my erector and like mid back density is just a lot of deadlifts every week, and doing them heavily. I usually have them on a posterior day, so a day that I'm training back and hamstrings or glutes. And so now my deadlifts are a little bit more like lower body focus, but I'm still training heavy, so I'm hitting my back no matter what. But yeah, those are my favorites. What's something you were looking forward to this month? A lot. Oh my God. This month, I have the Refined Retreat coming. That's probably the biggest thing. That is next week at the time of this recording. So I have about 50 or so people coming from that are athletes with my team. So either with me as their coach, Jess, or Daraja. And so like all of our team members, or a lot of our team members, just coming together to hang out and train and pose and hang and have fun. That's like a big thing I'm looking forward to, seeing my coaches, seeing Jess and Daraja, but also other people involved in the in the weekend, like Liana and Clarissa and my assistant, Lila, who also does this podcast. Shout out to Lila for like everything that she does in producing this podcast. So that's a big thing I'm looking forward to, because what I saw from last year's retreat, just the level of connection that got to happen and the building of the culture of refined strength that has just been like, that really popped off through that retreat. And that retreat showed me just how powerful this type of connection is. Not only the in-person stuff at the retreat, but how much I can connect and engage with my athletes, like just day to day in check-ins, stuff like that at shows. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most. But other things like outside of work, I'm just looking forward to like training. I love training and I'm having fun with it lately. I feel pretty good overall. Being in a growth phase is nice, you know. I have a friend, Brittany Hulliman. She is coming to move to Dallas, so I'm excited to have her here. And then at the end of the month / beginning of May, I am going off to the Emerald Cup in Seattle. So I get to see all my Seattle people when I'm at the Emerald Cup doing the music. And yeah, that's like it for this month. There's a lot going on outside of that, but hopefully this weekend, Easter weekend, is just like more of a chill weekend, gearing up for 3 weekends in a row of like activities and travel. So yeah, that was all of my questions, and I'm getting to a point where I need to log off anyway. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. And if you have anything that you want me to talk about on a solo episode, please let me know. I am, 4 months into this off season. It's been really good so far. I'm excited for what's to come and kind of foreseeing into the future. Obviously, Mark is the boss and he's going to be the one that makes the calls on this. But I'm thinking like we'll probably do at least one more growth phase in this year of 2025. And then what I want to do is start prep at the end of the year so I can start competing around this time next year. I have big goals of getting a Olympia qualification in 2026. So I want to hit the ground running and get started and compete in several shows and try to get to the Olympia. So that's the goal. But right now I just have to focus on getting big and staying healthy. So thank you guys for listening to the Refined Strength podcast. If you would please share this with a friend. That is the only way I grow. I don't do ads on this podcast. I probably never will. I don't really like that vibe. So the only way it grows is if you share it and if you review it and, retweet it, whatever. That's the way it grows. So thank you guys so much for listening. I will catch you on the next one. Bye.